Good evening. Welcome back to another episode of Please Call Me Crazy, brought to you by Free People Radio and powered by our favorite sponsor, TireGet.com. That's TireGet.com. You have to buy tires from somebody. You might as well buy them from us. Help fund the movement. Help support the movement. We believe in the freedom of movement. That's exactly what the establishment wants to take from you now. I'm your host, Royce White, here in the belly of the beast with my trusted co-host, HEBROES co-host, the great Professor Penn. Welcome back to the studio, Professor Penn.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's
Good evening to you.
Good to see you. Good to be here with you. Um, we today I think we got to talk about what we saw as an inevitable split, or let's not say a split because it's not really a split, but a reality of the Republican Party as a result of the MAGA movement and Donald Trump's candidacy. That, for example, 20% of the GOP voters claim, at least the poll suggests that 20% of the GOP voters say they won't vote for Donald Trump in a general. And the new shtick from MSNBC is that Donald Trump can't win without Nikki Haley's 40% of voters in a place like Carolina, for example. And I've been saying for a long time, these rhino, neocon, Nikki Haley types should just go caucus with the Democrats. Get out of the way. And I made the case last night in my podcast on Wednesday night that they're actually getting in the way of a potential new type of Republican Party and conservative movement. I mean, they're actually standing. You find the same. You find the same group of people in many ways. And not nothing is 100%, right? But there is a sort of crossover between the Nikki Haley types and the 501c3 Christian rhino neocons and a lot of the people who are actively trying to keep the cultural wars, the cultural wedge issues as the prominent political topic. I mean, this is the modus operandi of Fox News, right? Is to keep us talking about cultural wedge issues. And in effect, what it does is it keeps certain people with a certain cultural disposition out of the party. Let's just be clear, black people. I said on Wednesday night, I was at the Hopkins and North High School game, and I can't tell you how many people come up to me and say, black people come up to me and say, keep speaking the truth. We appreciate what you're doing. And we agree. I agree with you. We don't want to keep sending our money to Ukraine or any of these other wars. We're still pissed off when we think about the Afghanistan and Iraq war. And on the other side of the football, across from them, what they perceive as across from them or is a Republican Party with people like Lindsey Graham and McConnell, and it was John McCain, and it was, and it was Mitt Romney, and now it's Nikki Haley and even Ron DeSantis, and their whole deal is about the military-industrial complex and preserving the empire and that whole kind of way of thinking. And within the Republican Party, these are the people who won't talk about forever wars. They just won't touch it. They'll talk about the border, fine. They'll talk about inflation, fine. But the forever war is like a taboo topic for them. So I think we're seeing a split that needs to happen. People might be afraid of it because of what it means for the outcome of the election potentially in 2024. But the reality is, if the Nikki Haley types and the Ron DeSantis types are going to protest Donald Trump and the MAGA movement, and they're going to protest what it means to be America first, that's really what they're protesting. Then good riddance to them. Then let's redefine the party. Let's reshape the party. Let's reshape the movement. What do you think?
Well, Nikki Haley's still active,
Mhm.
so her social media is still focused on her candidacy. You get into the Ron DeSantis crowd; they're highly organized. They've become the point of the spear of trying to kill what they say is Donald Trump. I'll never vote for Donald Trump, but as you said, what they're really doing is saying, we're not going to do this America First thing. So there's all these postings of DeSantis as some kind of, clean gene character in his military, his Navy whites. He represents some kind of return to kind of a purity of essence, a purity of purpose,
Mm-hmm.
the kind of purity you need if you're going to maintain and expand the empire. And I engage with a lot of these people, and I'm frustrated by it because, of course, in every operation, there's going to be an element of truth in there, and there is an element of truth, which is, or I would like, make it an I statement.
Mm-hmm.
I like doing HEBROES with you because we try to aspire to a pretty high level of discourse, and our audience likes it. And every time it goes down into the mud and stays there, and people just start throwing bricks at each other, it really doesn't help get to the fact of what's going on here. And here's the fact. We've got a leftist movement. It's Marxism, globalism. It's had a very powerful and effective degradation of what it was to be an American citizen, what it is to be in America. They've been incredibly successful.
Mm.
I respect their success. They organized, they got involved, they showed up, they participated, and they took over key institutions. Of course, I'm talking about the universities. And the only juxtaposition to that was the conservative movement. So we had this leftists and rightists. And those rightists are saying that they would rather vote with the leftists than vote America first. So what we are seeing is a political realignment. And it's a necessary political realignment for the conservatives that are out there that are going to reject the America First movement because of a politician. I thought about this. I somehow I knew we were going to get here today. I didn't know we were going to lead off with this. And I thought, what was I going to say? And for me, I don't get caught up in people. I don't care who they're I like you. You're a great young politician and leader, but it's the ideas that I'm interested in. I mean, it's not the people. So everybody is focusing everything on Trump. Trump. It's the ideas of the America First philosophy, which is, just to summarize them, because we're going to say them over and over, because everybody else is saying something else over and over, because it's a little bit of cultic brainwashing, right? That's, we can talk about cults tonight, I hope. We really want to restore borders, both physical and spiritual. That's not a divisive issue. We all agree on that. I think even the leftists would agree on that to some degree.
No.
Well, they would like to.
The liberals would.
The liberals would. Right, yes. Okay, thank you.
For sure.
Because they got their own
for
split.
Sure, though.
They got their own split.
The Joe Bidens of the world would agree for sure. But in fact, when push comes to shove, he's the one who opened the border. So even the liberals, even your stalwart liberals have been co-opted by the globalist agenda.
But we have liberals that are the opposite, which we're not talking about. We got these conservatives that are rejecting America First, but we've got liberals that are rejecting leftism. So there's a cross-pollination. Well, our friend Mike.
Nobody on MSNBC.
Well, no, but it's happening in the grassroots. It's happening in the people, where the people matter. Right?
No, let's say you got Democrats who are rejecting
the open
not
border.
liberals.
They're rejecting it because it's having a caustic effect in their neighborhoods.
The liberals organize the left. My take on the thing is the far left and the far right are the same controlled opposition. Nick Fuentes and Ilhan Omar are the same person.
As far as they balance it out nicely, don't they?
They're doing the exact same thing.
They justify each other's existence. Perfect.
Yeah.
But you've got this conservative groups. You got this leftists. You got conservatives. And now we have this proto-new philosophical movement in America. Well, it's not that new. It goes back to the 30s, but it's been reborn. Let's focus on American citizenship. It's a beautiful idea. And we have this group of conservatives that will not align. So they do align with the border issue, the conservatives, and they do align with fiscal responsibility, right? Which is they're not thinking through what they believe. But when it comes to the
No, they
forever
thought.
war,
Yeah, go
if it
ahead.
comes for the forever war, hey,
No, they thought it through.
well then they're lying to everybody.
That's exactly. They're liars.
We just had that.
No, they're liars. They're.
We just saw senatorial candidate Joe.
Yeah.
You weren't there. I saw him present, and he said, "Got to get our border fixed. I know we're having trouble with groceries. We got to get this spending under control.
Mhm.
But I believe in a strong international military presence of the U.S." And and I'm thinking, it was so dumb. I didn't even challenge him because it's ridiculous. I mean, you can't. You have to choose one or the other. We're at a point where we have to make a choice.
Yeah.
We can't have. If we continue to try to have everything, we're going to have nothing.
Right.
So, this moment in American history is one of ideas. And of course, that's another thing. Everybody's trying to make this about President Trump as if the ideas that he represents don't matter. And then they say things like, oh, he failed to accomplish. Well, does anybody remember the resistance to Trump that started the moment he went down the escalator? I mean, this guy, because he was challenging the post-World War II Democrat liberal order, because he was clearly advocating an evolution of our business model in the country, a retreat from this worldwide democracy scam that we've been doing since the end of World War II. They've been fighting him. So, he didn't get the border fixed. Yeah, well, they fought him every step of the way. Well, he put on $8 trillion of debt. Don't like it. But do we all remember COVID? And then there was people want perfection in our leadership. And they fail to recognize that they lead with a limited amount of information. They have experts that are around them. They have to make decisions under great stress and pressure, and sometimes they err. But if the underlying ideas are correct, you keep coming back to the philosophical base. And we have three different philosophical approaches, which are about to become two, because all the conservatives that can't vote for America First actually are liberals. They're materialists, right? We have a spiritual movement. We believe in restoring spiritual borders. What we believe in, what I believe in, but I'm speaking for the movement as best I can, but I'm going to make an I statement. I believe that if we restore our personal spiritual borders, most of the problems that we're suffering will disappear because we'll be self-governing. The idea of spiritual borders, correct me if you disagree, but I think from the framers' perspective, they were rejecting being ruled. They set up a process of self-governance, which means every citizen self-governs. They have their own spiritual borders. Therefore, we don't need an oppressive and controlling governance.
Mm.
And that's what we want to get back to in the America First movement. That's what I think. That's what it's about for me. Makes sense? Do I understand it?
I like it. I'm much more simple.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, although I've always said that borders are a limit on man's unfettered ambition. I understand that. I'm just much more simple about this whole deal. Is the erudite conversation. It's great. I love it. Fine. I can do it all day long. I could do it with the best of them. No problem. It's fun to sit down and drink tea and eat fucking crumpets, and we just got our great conversations, and that's all good. These fucking people are full of shit. They've always been full of shit. The 20% that they're talking about is the 20% of the conservative movement that's been highly active. They've been involved. They've understood the system, the way the party works. They've used the way the party works to dominate and sort of control and steer the movement. And these 20% of people are the 20% that have always been Democrats. These people are another form of the controlled they're the moderate controlled opposition. You got the far right, Nick Fuentes controlled opposition, who want to make it all about race, which obviously is gonna fractionate any hope and chance of reestablishing a republic and a vital polity when the borders are wide open. I mean, whether you like it or not, we allowed it to happen. If Nick Fuentes wants to go down to the border and man the gate,
have at it.
Yeah, proceed. And for that matter, any of his followers. But they're not doing that. So you got to ask yourself, okay, so what's the actual answer then? You can sit here and complain all day. It's like a kid on a basketball team. I always refer back to sports because sports tell you so much about people's character. It's not about who wins the game, but it tells you a lot about people's characters. Like you just want to complain, no matter what it is. You got to fucking complain. It's we're not doing what I want in practice, or oh, I'm injured, I'm a little sore today, or the ref was bad, or coach didn't sub me in at the right time, or I'm not getting enough shots, or the other team is whatever it is, you always got to complain. But how much work are you willing to put in? What are you willing to do? Does the work that is the work that you're willing to do line up with the thing that you're complaining about, and is it changing it, or you just talking? And Nick should run for office. And I don't mean to make it about Fuentes, but it's a paradigm, right? Of the far right controlled opposition, but the moderate controlled opposition, the centrists. These people they've been in power for a long time. I love when Alex Jones was on the show and he talked about the neocons always being over the Democrats for the entire time. That the neocon, and when you look at Barack Obama and his presidency, and you look at what he really served, the interest that he served, in a sort of bipartisan fashion, of course he bombed more brown and black people in the Middle East than any of his white predecessors combined. He bombed more people in the Middle East than Bush, Clinton, and I think George Walker, George
Herbert
Senior.
Walker?
Yeah, then all three of them combined. I mean, what does that tell you? So I guess we're going to be materialists, if we're going to talk about the material results of things, nothing is more stark than how many bodies you put in the ground from missile drone strikes. So these 20% of the people are they're liars. They've been lying to us, and
Ye
so of course they reject the MAGA movements. Ron DeSantis, for example, is like, to be honest, he's not even that erudite. I mean, give me a break. You guys are acting like Ron DeSantis is some type of scholar or he's some type of intellectual. If you take 50-minute replay of Ron DeSantis' speech, it looks like a CIA psyop of trying to mimic Donald Trump. I think they actually have those out there where he's just doing the same gestures and hand gestures, and I mean, as Donald Trump, he's like a Donald Trump light with a Navy uniform.
yeah.
I mean, it's embarrassing. I mean, the fact that they think they could pass that off as authentic and genuine is an insult to the American people. I don't mind. I don't mind. Look, this is a telltale sign, and it aligns perfectly with my candidacy and my position in the movement. All the 501c3 rhinos, all the 501c3 Protestant uptight, sort of love the presentation of security, love the false sense of security, love the false sense of righteousness when the Satanists took their country. All of them have these sort of purity and litmus tests about their support. But when push comes to shove, they don't want to have to do what it takes to really save the republic. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Because they already got their place in line.
But I mean, it's just so radically dishonest to make it seem like it's about the morals and ethics, and it breaks down right away. And see, this is where the line merges with this great. And I think this is one of the great. This is why the military industrial complex. It's not just the fact that they're stealing your money; it's what they're doing with it, and it's what they're justifying. Right? It's just like, we'll say who the bad guys are, then we'll go and kill. We'll go and kill in your name, and we're God. Yeah, we'll decide who lives and who dies. And you have your say, well, look, this is rich. You'll have your same 501c3 Protestant neocon boomers, okay, rhinos say, oh, you can't use profanity, but we can go kill in the name of
Democracy,
democracy.
the post-World War II Democrat liberal order.
But you can't use profanity.
You better not.
You better not use profanity, but we'll go drop a bomb up a camel's ass because, hey, it's our national interest, and they actually think it's just. I mean, this is a brainwashing of magnificent
But
proportions.
what's growing?
Outrageous.
What's growing is an awareness. Like a wave is building up of people that are realizing It's really not about the Democrat liberal order. It's really not about enemies. It's just those people that die are the cost of doing business. If you look at our economy, we talked about it on a previous HEBROES, but the evidence just keeps mounting because these people are getting a little bit desperate. Senator Roger Wicker, neocon Republican extraordinaire from the state of Mississippi, which, that state ratified the Civil Rights Act of 1964 in about 1995. Mississippi, okay? Uh,
Controlled opposition.
he put out a position paper about this $90 billion war funding bill they're trying to run through, and he said 75% of this money is going right back into American companies. And, he's saying we're really not, hey, they're actually saying the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
Which is mind-boggling.
Yeah. War as a means of business is good.
Right, that's what we're saying. And if we're building our country on that kind of foundation,
then they're Satanists.
that would be
No,
correct.
that's just it. I don't care. I don't care how evangelical you are. I don't care what church, what mega church you go to. I don't care how many snakes you handle or whatever your deal is. I'm seriously. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. If your primary business is killing people, if your primary business is war, you're fucking Satanist.
Well, isn't that America's primary business right now?
100%.
Okay, so then what we have is this proto-movement of American citizens that want to extricate the country from the business model of slavery, drugs, and piracy, which was the British colonial business model, which we rebelled against to establish the country in the first place. And I don't know why this is so complicated to figure out.
It's not complicated.
If you like it so much,
it's not complicated.
Move back to the old country.
No, it's not complicated. The only problem is that we've made the mistake of allowing the most prominent institutions in the country to be represented by that brand of people. And you see it in the hierarchy of the Republican Party, the RNC. You see it here in the Minnesota GOP. You see it all across the country. You see it in our commentary. You see it on the conservative news. The people who rose to the top, the people who were pushed to the top, are the people who think that way.
And of course, a lot of them are ex-military.
And so they
very high percentage.
Yes, and so they get branded as being a representative of a much broader way of thought than maybe really exists. We don't know how many. Look, let's get down to the real. The real. It would have been hard. Let's say the elections are rigged. Let's say the primaries are rigged. Let's say the primaries aren't secure.
Let's posit it for intellectual exercise.
if that's the case, it would have still been hard to justify Nikki Haley defeating Donald Trump in South Carolina, defeating him, but pulling enough of the voters away to create this narrative that the 40% that did vote for Nikki Haley are what Donald Trump needs to win the general. Well, that seems like a very strategic move. That's very viable. So we don't know so we don't even know if 40% of the people voted for Nikki Haley. And I got down on South Carolina, and as I start to think about it, I have to leave open the possibility that maybe 40% of people didn't vote for Nikki Haley. Maybe it was only 20%, and they fudged the other 20 so that they could create the next narrative in the propaganda. And that's well within their capability to do. We all know that.
And in some of these states, the Democrats can cross over.
And it is scary when you understand how easily propaganda swells. How easily people are influenced by the person next to them. You just play a game of telephone in your nearest kindergarten, and people aren't much different when they get to be 18, or when they get to be 30, or when they get to be 60. If you go look, it's quite sad. And honestly, I love the American people, and I want to represent the American people. But it's quite sad when you stroll into some of these BPOUs and caucuses and see the polity that exists there, and the lack of energy, and the sort of just mundane, sort of moping around, and that elderly, that more elder fragility. And there is an elder fragility. And like I had a guy come and after I spoke at the caucus, and he said to me, he was a supporter, so I'm not berating him. This is just the reality of the party, right? I mean, it's just in the movement. he says to me, he goes, "Man, that was a great speech. I mean, one of the greatest speeches I've ever heard live. I mean, in person in my life. Wow." He said, you must be tired. You must be really tired." I said, "No, I'm not tired at all. This is great. I'm having a blast. That was fun. I actually had fun. We went to dinner afterward. You know how much fun I had.
We were
I mean,
both jacked up
but
afterwards.
I actually got a kick out of it. It felt like a comedy routine because that's how absurd some of these old views are. I mean, but he was like, and he said at the end, he said, "Well, you have the energy of a 32-year-old man." And it just dawned on me right there, not to, I'm not saying anything wrong against him, but it dawned on me that when I walk into the Republican events,
They're old.
there are older people, and do you know how easy it is to get older people to just go with the herd? I mean, this is the reason why we feel so strongly about laws protecting elderly people from that type of abuse at like nursing homes and things like that, because their actual physical fragility makes them vulnerable to be herded like sheep. And this is the Fox News cohort. And even more broadly, it's the Boomer cohort that is, and in fair play to them, at least they tried to preserve a conservative movement, or else this country would have been off in Looneyville a long time ago. But now we have to ask the hard question: can they preserve it? Can they preserve it in their age? And so, and now what they're doing. See, this is what people don't see over the horizon. The real danger is that certain young commentators and pundits are already being positioned to make sure that the next wave of conservatism is something that has no anchors in reality or logic. And I don't need to say their names, but Nick Fuentes is one. Stu Peters is another one who's a bit younger fellow, but they're sprinkled all throughout. They're sprinkled all throughout, and there's some that are even closer to me than that.
And they're spreading information that is caustic and divisive.
And I don't even like the word divisive, because people,
When you spread a propaganda, when you spread lies
s-
that are intentioned
yes,
to make people
well,
hate
and
each
I
other,
don't even know.
to foster hate
I
among
don't know if it's intentional.
Oh, I do.
It's hard for me to determine.
Well, I've made my decision about it.
Okay, that's
I
fine.
think
I get.
I think that the
Some people are. Some people may be.
I think they're
idiots.
paid to do it. Well, some people are idiots, but I think there are some very smart people that are
that are
being
putting them up
paid.
to it.
They're paid big budgets to run big staffs to be
Mhm.
constantly churning out disinformation because this is the other side of this
What's
too.
the number one misinformation in the discourse?
The number one did
What the go-to play is always race, and people say, and then the people who have more sane, logical minds, they tend to drift towards the race thing is they know that the race thing is a bait and switch.
when we talking about the race thing, are we talking about the Jewish thing also? Does that fit into the race
Oh,
narrative?
for sure.
Okay.
But
That's why I clutched up there. I didn't know where we were
but
going.
but they the sane and logical people in the conservative movement drift towards. We know that race is a bait and switch, so their first thing is to reject the whole conversation entirely.
That's what I was going to say before I went down here. People just disengage.
But at the same time, there is a sort of loose kind of superficial surface glue to those conversations still that people casually kind of associate with, right? I mean, and I said it before, it's talking about black on black crime. That's the go to across conservative move. Alpha News, this is the primary example.
A mugshot every day.
Alpha News puts up a mugshot every day of some black or Somali or Hispanic,
It's unbelievable.
person. Like, I mean, they're the only ones doing crime now. Disproportionately, they are.
It's just ridiculous.
But my point is, they won't talk about rigged elections. When was the last time you saw Alpha News post about the security and integrity of our elections?
That's a no-go zone.
And that tells you who they are and what they're trying to do. And for all the MAGA movement, I need you to understand this. It's the same with Fox News. You can go to Fox News to get your fear porn about cultural wedge issues that black people are going to come steal your, kick in your door and rob you and kill your family or rape your wife. And listen, that may happen. No, it's not a high probability. There's 450 million people in the country. Not a lot of people are getting their doors kicked in and raped and killed. That's a very anomalous thing. And here's another thing:
It magnifies.
facts
Gets
don't care
magnified.
about you. And don't get me wrong, when it happens once to those people it happens to, it is a disproportionate tragedy. So I'm not saying it's nothing because of the numbers. I'm not a materialist. But for an institution like Fox News, who makes everything so material and numbers based, they surely do well to not really illustrate that crime overall is down. I mean, just overall, people are getting too high and they're too preoccupied with their cell phones to be badass criminals. I
And
mean, these
and
people aren't Al Capones.
and abortion.
Abortion is what?
There's people that believe that abortion is part of the reason why crime is down.
Well, well,
I'm just saying,
yeah.
and they justify it as a positive thing.
Well, I mean, and
I don't wanna, go down
neither
that
here nor
rabbit
there.
hole.
My point is this: the black on black crime issue is a go-to move, and the Alpha News and the rise of fall of Minneapolis documentary. It's going viral. I get people sending me all the time, tagging me in it. Do you see this documentary? I'm like, guys, do you know who Alpha News is? Do you know who Liz Collins is? Do you know who Bob Kroll is? These are the 20% of, and I guarantee you that they're wishy-washy on Donald Trump. Maybe not. Maybe they'll say they like
A
Donald
lot of
Trump.
people are gonna jump up and say we're for Donald
Yeah, of
Trump
course.
until they're not.
Like Joe Frazier.
Like,
Hold on, wait. Joe
Lindsey Graham.
But Joe Frazier just said it right in his caucus letter. He mentioned Donald Trump. He said he's supporting Donald Trump, but he never said America first. And I think there's a little
Tom Emmer.
there's a little
Tom Emmer just came out and endorsed.
I think there's a little sliver of hope that the rhino and neocons hold that Donald Trump is still one of them. That he can be manipulated. That they can put certain people around him even if he wins. It's like I said, people, it doesn't matter if you vote Republican or Democrat, because somehow the military machine always wins. And Amy Klobuchar is the greatest example of that. No wonder Republicans and neocon. No wonder when you get a governor race and it's 55-45, 52-48, you get an attorney general race between Keith Ellison and Schultz.
Schultz, yeah.
And it's what, 50-50? 49-51?
If the Republican Party had any kind of infrastructure in Minnesota, Jim Schultz would have won.
You get a senatorial race and it's 62 to it's 68-42 for Klobuchar.
But I told you I know Republican activists that are in the party that said it'd be a shame if anybody ran against Amy Klobuchar because she's such a great senator. Republicans. I look at them like,
but what's the common theme? I mean, look at the common theme here.
Military.
Schultz, Jim Schultz, for example, attorney, Catholic boy, conservative, sure, but military's not his line of country, right?
Right.
Attorney, came from the seminary. Military's not his line of country. Dr. Scott Jensen, doctor, railed against the medical industrial complex, railed against censorship and cancel culture. He and I disagree on a bunch of issues, and a lot of people think he's much more liberal than they had a stomach for. But military is not his line of country. And so you saw a concession for them, like, hey, we'll vote for these guys. But Amy, she's neck deep. She's balls deep, as they say.
She's a great salesperson. Like General Jack Keane. General Jack Keane and Amy Klobuchar, kind of the same person. Yeah. I want to just say something that occurred to me to break back.
But what I said, but before I go on, the black on black crime issue, again, Alpha News, Fox News, same people. They'll talk about black people committing crimes. They won't touch election integrity. That's all the America First and MAGA movement need to know. Why will they not talk about election integrity? And even furthermore, and I said this before to you, and I said it to the white Republicans, and I don't mean to make it a black or white thing, but it is what it is.
I think you're the only black person in the room.
Then that's fine. And I told everybody, I said, I think it's disgusting the way they've tried to, weaponize this, race against you, and it's not this reverse racism. White supremacy is the great scourge of the planet, and my grandmother was a Norwegian immigrant. I think it's disgusting. It's dishonest, but it's even more than that. It's disgusting. So I get it. They're trying to attack the white identity. I get it. But it's white liberals who are doing it, which makes it really peculiar. But we know why. But that's not the point. The point I'm making is I've told a lot of people in our group, very close to us, why the fuck are you still talking about the crime of black people? Well, why are you talking about it? Get a fucking gun. Get a gun. That's what the American that's what the pro American patriot mind thinks. Get a gun. Then you don't have to worry. Get a nice big gun. Get a shot. A shotgun that holds 16 rounds. You know, and they got some good ones. Double barrel, pump. You know, semi-automatic.
The ones where the flames come out the barrel.
I mean, just get a gun. Get your wife a gun. Let her. A lot of people don't want their wife to have a gun because she might shoot them. Because I mean, that man-woman thing goes deeper than Democrat, Republican, and black or white. But the point is, get a fucking gun, right? And these people don't want to do that. I mean, it becomes so clear when you listen to Fox News and the Alpha News, and you're indoctrinated by this sort of fear porn brainwashing about the crime. And don't get me wrong, crime is an issue, and we got to do something about it. We got to be tough on it. But when a mainstream publication, mainstream outlet won't even mention election integrity, they won't even admit that the election was stolen, or even open the dialogue that we should be able to ask. Alpha News, Fox News punted. They're the same people. They punted on the election altogether with Dominion. So that's.
I think they cost them $1 billion to punt.
Yeah, who cares? That's nothing. $1 billion, nothing to them.
Well, it's something.
Well, I don't think so.
He kept on going though.
This $1 billion ain't nothing. The Fox, it's huge. It's massive. I mean, it's the controlled opposition. It's too big to fail. You mean they have their own market? They have their entire own. They're the only mainstream conservative media outlet in the country.
Actually, the people that own Dominion and own Fox News are the same people.
Right.
So it was just moving the money from one pocket to the other.
That's what I'm saying. Too big to fail. BlackRock owns them. I mean,
they're on both sides of
so
football.
Who actually paid the lawsuit?
They paid themselves.
Okay.
They moved some money around.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's good. They're good at it. I got to just say one thing.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Because we're going to get downstream, and I'm going to forget this, because you brought up something that about the fragility of the aging boomers, which I'm in that group. I'm not fragile yet, but I understand what you're saying. But I also want to go back, because that connects a dot for me, because there's an explanation about why the boomers are so slavishly cultish about the U.S. military, and it's when they were born, which your generation doesn't have an attachment to. The people that were born in the 40s and 50s were born in the afterglow of the World War II victory, which, of course, the victors wrote the histories. So the histories that we got when we went to school in the 50s and 60s as very young people, when our identities were formed, were very propagandized versions of the gloriousness of the U.S. military. And when you're 5, 6 years old and you're sitting on the top of the hill and you've just defeated fascism and the whole notions of what fascism was and communism was, everything was constructed. When we went to school at that time, we didn't question what we were being taught. We were just absorbing what we were being taught. I used to make model airplanes. I made every model airplane of every World War II plane that there was. I used to make model ships, and I knew all the ships and all that. When you were watching TV, we had all kinds of World War II shows that glorified and aggrandized the U.S. military. Rat Patrol, Hogan's Heroes, 12 O'Clock High. I could go on and on. The whole culture was steeped in the afterglow of that victory. So the boomer generation got that when they were so little, so young. It went in unfiltered, and it requires a very concerted search for truth to unpack that and start to say, hey, what really happened here? Like, for example, the role of the Russians in World War. We were raised to believe that the U.S. military defeated the Nazis starting on June 6, 1944, D-Day. That we believe that. The whole impact, the whole contribution of the Russians. I think there was like 550,000 U.S. military deaths during the war, and 20, 30 million Russians died. I mean, they sacrificed their whole generation to defeat the Nazis. So we weren't taught that. That was never even mentioned. Wasn't even mentioned because, of course, the Cold War had started. Now it was the Soviet Union. Russians good, Soviet Union bad. It wasn't even discussed. They were our enemies. When we came of age, they were the enemy. So that was being pounded into our head. Russians are bad. We were hiding under our desks. This is how bullshit this thing was.
Cold War.
Well, we're going to have a nuclear war.
Bomb tests.
We're going to have a drill.
Mm-hmm.
Kids, get under your desk.
Fuck you people.
But we were 7 years old.
No, but I mean the people who were doing it.
They were abusing us and giving us.
How fucking retarded was that? And it's like, oh well, it was an older time. That was the best they could do. These people had built an atom bomb. They knew the physics. I mean, this is a great example of systemic propaganda.
Yeah, that's why I'm talking
from scientific
about it.
elites.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, nuclear.
I'm trying to
get under your desk, kids.
I'm trying
it's
to
a
give
nuclear
the
war.
boomers a stair to walk down.
Please proceed.
Well, if the boomers would actually start to unpack, and a lot of them are.
Get under your desk. There's a nuclear bomb. The magic bullet. It's outrageous.
It was a first turning. There was a great deal of confidence in
But when
our
you get
governance.
when you get a kid at 7 years old, you could tell him that he could cut his penis off and become a woman.
Well, that's what they're doing now.
But it's the same thing they did to the boomers. But
it's just advanced to the next generation.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So that was the
but
first.
it's worth it for the boomers and the neocons and that sort of cohort of people, even the traditional liberals, the Kennedy Democrats. It's worth it for them to realize when they cast those aspersions and kind of have that stern judgment about the LGBTQ agenda and what they're seeing now, that they were actually a part of a similar psyop.
Can I ask you a question
Mm-hmm.
that I don't know the answer to?
Mm-hmm.
When you were like in third grade,
Yeah.
Did the people in white coats show up in the cafeteria of your school and mass inoculate everybody in your school?
No.
We did. We know it's time to get your vaccines, kids.
Polio.
Whatever they were
All
given,
of it.
all of it. We got it mass injected. We lined up, and there was people there with white coats on, and we got public health. And we were the first generation to get the well-being checkups, and we had the polio vaccine. It just put polio down, and the nuclear bomb was really, a symbol of American power. I mean, we were feeling good about science, right? Because our previous generation, they were still washing clothes by hand. Mom had a washing machine. Color television, 1966, watching the baseball in color. Holy smokes, it was great. We were acculturated into the dependency on scientific advancement.
Right.
And we were mass inoculated, and we were given all this propaganda, which we didn't view as propaganda. We viewed it as being the truth. So when you look at that background for my cohort and how some of these people are functioning today, they're really very quite cultish about it.
You want to talk about cults? Proceed.
Well, it's occurred to me because I'm watching all these Ron DeSantis influencers, which is a lead. Somebody's organized them and they're paying them because it's
Same people who put Ron DeSantis up to it, but we'll save that for another time.
Okay, so they're continuously calling anyone that is a supporter of Donald Trump a cultist, a cultist, which is, pretty negative, right? A cultist. And at the same time, I've been reading all these neocon, what we came up with one of the most recent episodes, you came up with this thing, secondhand jerk-offs, which I've turned into an art now. Because what I do is when the, Jonah Goldbergs or the Bill Cristols or these different, and I have to say for the audience, and, for my friend Ty, and some of the people, they're mostly anti-Jews. They are because Jews send their kids to the dirty dozen schools. I have 2 of my 5 went there. They both hate me. I changed and they become cultists. And I sent them in there believing in God, and after 8 years of education, they joined the cult, and that's what I want to say about it. These people, these secondhand jerk-offs, and they're not all anti-Jews. There's other guys
Yeah.
that say, but they all went to those schools, they all got those degrees, and they're all defending the post-World War II Democrat liberal order. And it occurred to me that they're all cultists themselves. They have a cultish devotion to that Democrat liberal order. It cannot be questioned. And a fundamental building block of that order is the military-industrial complex, which rests upon science.
I mean, Alexander Dugin got it so right when he said, in America, conservatism and liberalism is two sides of the same coin. And, I mean, whatever you think about Dugin or Putin or the Russians, when a man makes a profound statement and has a profound insight, if you can't objectively say it's true, regardless of your opinion of them personally, then you don't believe in the truth. You believe in whoever.
The search for truth is not your modus operandi.
That's right.
You're a cultist.
But and look, there's no better example. There's no greater slap in your face, no greater insult to your intelligence than to have a conservative movement that preserves the Democrat liberal order.
Well, it has for my entire life. I mean, that was okay. I've said this before, but it's so great. We have these people that I meet with. I'm very active, and politics is about peer-to-peer engagement. So as much media as we do, I still have lots of meetings with people on an individual basis, or I'll have group meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And people get very angry because what will happen is there'll be 80% of the room will be America Firsters, you'd call them, or Trump devotees, you would call them. And then there'll be this 20% group that is that traditionalist, neocon conservative orientation. And there's always this clash, this arguing that goes on, and it gets ugly. And when I want to call a halt to it, I'll just look at the 80% that are now supporting America First ideas, and I'll say, if you voted for George Bush, raise your hand. And you see a couple little vestiges, raise your hands high. And the point is that everyone has to work their way out of this cultish devotion to the post-World War II Democrat liberal order and that neocon formation of our politics that rests on a science that often delivers scientific invention, which is not really good for humanity. See, this is another symptom that's run through the society, and I see it in young people too. Whatever science delivers is good.
Yeah.
And that's probably more important than I could make a case that says this whole thing is a cover story, a diversion to get our eyes off of what's coming out of the scientific community. And we were warned about this by Eisenhower. And most of these inventions and advancements are not good for individual American citizens. I was talking about, and I think about this, we had this proto-trucker protest over the judicial decision about Trump in New York, and these truckers came out and said, we're not going to deliver to New York City. And it really doesn't seem to have legs. Maybe it does. I don't know. I'm not in New York. But the issue why the truckers need to organize and stop delivering is the globalist scientific community is creating autonomous trucks, and they're all going to lose their jobs, like not tomorrow. Like today, they're implementing this autonomous technology right now, and it's anti-human, and it's going to take millions of people and make them unemployed and subject to dependency on the state. And all of these issues where we find ourselves dependent on institutions, we then depend on those institutions to care for us and to love us and to actually be seeking our highest good, our well-being. And it's quite clear to me from my street corner that that's not what's happening, because all of these institutions have been perverted by greed, fundamentally, and then all the rest of the deadly sins are in there to some degree or another. Arrogance is a great one. The arrogance of people that are educated, the elite secondhand jerk-offs, their arrogance. This is just a rehashing of racism.
Yeah.
It's just a form shift. Okay, I'm a white man, and I have the right to enslave black people because I'm a higher level. Now we got PhDs that are in these, dirty dozen institutions that think they have the right to tell American citizens how to live their lives. It's preposterous. It's completely anti-American. It's completely anti what this country was founded on, which is the idea of self-governance. So every one of these interlocking institutions really are not working for the well-being of the people. So you got this growing group. I have to say, just for the listeners, we went to this caucus.
Yeah,
Now,
go ahead.
I'm an officer of the Republican Party of Minnesota. I'm sure there's a lot of neocon traditionalists that would like to get me out of the party. And they do. They're throwing people out of the party. They're just making up rules and throwing people out. But I'm the deputy chair of what's called Senate District 45, which is in Minnetonka and Wayzata, Minnesota. Now my house is the last house before you go into Plymouth. So I am not living in a $3.5, $4, $5, $6 million house. I'm living in a very modest home. But you go 2 miles south of me, and it's wealthy, really wealthy. So this district is a bastion of 401k materialism. That's what it is. And it is a headquarters. There's a national committee man, an RNC national committee man. That's his power base. They've been active in this area for decades. When I came into the party, they rejected me violently. And some people, we saw some of them at the meeting in a quite anti-Semitic fashion.
Mm.
But it was great. We had the caucus. Fantastic. Afterwards, Royce got to address the caucus attendees, and more than half of them stayed and listened. And what was so interesting, over half of these people in this bastion of neocon politics, over half of them were acting publicly as if they were American firsters. And I know there was some truth to it because I was looking at the faces of the neocons, and they were appalled. It was priceless. It was a priceless moment for me because I've been working in this district.
Did one of them stand up and reject what I was saying? Did one of them stand up and protest?
Well, there was several of them that I know.
No, did one of them say anything?
Oh, yeah.
No. When I was talking.
No, nobody said a word when
There
you were
you go.
talking.
And that's who they really are deep down. And that's why they're scared as fuck that I'm around, that I'm coming. Because they know I don't give a fuck.
The movement is here, kids.
Yeah, it's here.
It's here.
And guess what?
Right in the belly of the beast.
Oh, you know why I came there. To get delegates, sure, fine. If you vote Donald Trump, you're gonna know who the real guys are. And if you don't, the referendum's on us. And that's what I told them in the caucus. The referendum's on you. It ain't on Joe Biden. It ain't on Barack and Michelle. It ain't on Klaus Schwab. It ain't on Yuval Noah Harari.
Self-governor or not?
It ain't on Jen Psaki. It ain't on Jean Pierre. It ain't on Gavin Newsom. It ain't even on Donald Trump. The referendum ain't on Donald Trump. And that's why Nikki Haley is a fucking sellout, and that she has no real sense of sacred honor and what it means to be an American citizen, that duty. Because her mentality is, if Donald Trump doesn't win, it's a sign of his failure. That he has to. This is elective politics. If we don't vote for the ideas that preserve the prosperity and well-being of our communities, of our own individual person, that's on us.
Don't complain.
If the doctor tells you, hey man, you keep smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day, you're gonna fucking die. And you keep smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day and you die, is the doctor a bad doctor? Seriously. I mean, this is a basic question. If I tell you, if you keep letting that man shoot the corner 3 wide open, you're gonna lose this game. And you keep letting him shoot the corner 3, am I a bad coach? I mean, this is where shit gets kind of weird. It gets kind of, because some people would say, well, you should have put a better team out there, or you should have put a player out there that would do what you tell them.
You play with the players that show up.
And not only that, though, the thing about free will is you can only coach people so far. That's what I'm learning about coaching. That's why it's so great to coach. I love coaching. Because it tells you so much about people and the way that it works. You can have been, I'm an NBA player. I went through, I did my time. I'm still playing pro. In fact, I had an all-star season last year in the Big Three. And the Big Three is getting younger. It's getting more competitive. It ain't getting less competitive. And I mean, I'm 32 years old. I could still be playing in the NBA today, but that's not the point. I've been through the fire when it comes to athletics, and even in MMA. I mean, I lost my first MMA fight, but for somebody to go from being playing basketball his whole life to going into MMA and having your first fight be pro and not even take an amateur fight, and I lost in a decision where I was never knocked down or even stunned and hurt. I mean, that's an accomplishment. And the guy I fought now, he wasn't a physical specimen, but he trains at the best MMA gym in the country and has for 4 years under some high level people. Okay, so he wasn't no rookie to this. Okay, and my point is, I've been through the fire, I've seen how sports works, just like in MMA. If I don't listen to Greg Nelson, that doesn't make him a bad coach. I mean, there's a point where I have to decide, and that's the beauty of free will and being human. But see, they want to make it. See, that even in that, they reject the fundamental tenets of free will and being. And these people fancy themselves erudite. No, they just talk polite. They're not smart. They're not intelligent. And it's the same thing I see a lot of these Republican BPO using caucuses. You people are just polite. Don't mistake polite for intelligence. Don't mistake polite for being an intellectual or having ideas, good ideas for that matter. But any ideas. I don't really even see real, genuine, authentic ideas.
You know, it was a great moment when Joe Frazier, you weren't there. He went up first, and he said, "Got to get the border under control." Okay, great. America First idea.
Inflation.
Yeah.
Groceries.
Got to get this spending under control.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe in a strong military presence. 20 years I was in the military. I've been in 100 countries.
26 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a fucking globalist.
That's exactly correct. And it doesn't make any sense because when you're $34 trillion in debt, somebody's going to take a haircut now. They just announced today the inflation rate was the highest in a year. So, you keep expanding that money supply, somewhere or other, there's got to be a countervailing balance to this.
My thing is they want to say that if Donald Trump can't win, it's an indictment of him. That he's a failure. They want to project that.
That's a good point.
They
want a really good
They
point.
want to project that onto him. They want to cast that shadow. And that's the greatest resignation of American citizenship that you can have. Well, if he doesn't win, if he doesn't find a way, and don't get me wrong, leadership is important. And I get there's a crisis of leadership, but there's also
there are elected representatives.
There is a crisis of intellect, philosophical. There's philosophical currency, almost but bankrupt in our society today. There's a crisis of sacred honor and faith. So I mean, we have to measure our leaders with some reasonable, reasonably, because look. And two, when it comes down to coaching, sometimes you just don't have the players.
The thing that the establishment is dealing with now, which is new for them, which you said to me before we went off on this venture, the lack of social media, that the Democrats were 20 years ahead of the America First movement in terms of social media,
Mm-hmm.
and then just being cool about what we do, because people are too old. But we now have in this cycle so much podcasted and social media. This is a way we're talking to each other, but people are listening to us. This is what everybody in the movement needs to do. Everybody in the movement needs to know that everybody's in some kind of a cult. Everybody, I said this in the car to you today when we were driving to the studio. If you don't have some kind of cultic affiliation, you're a sociopath. You're just out there on your own. You're really dangerous. Everybody has a worldview if we don't have worldviews that we've given over to, we never develop our humanity.
Yeah, that's what they want.
That's what,
anti-human globalism.
Right. But then you've given yourself over to that cultic, you're going to feed me and you're going to protect me kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But we have an opportunity to talk to our friends and our neighbors, our coworkers. Of course, the judgment is never talk about religion and politics. That's a scam. Put in there just to keep people atomized and
never talk about the two most important things in human existence.
In my existence. I don't want to learn from anybody. I don't want to share with anybody. But, interestingly, the good book says spread the good word. The gospel will be spread to every corner of the earth.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes this shit is so good.
501c3 Christians.
Oh, I'm going to go deeper than that. Some of these judgments are so good, I think they were put in supernaturally. That's a supernatural block to the imperative of spreading the word, because the people knew you have to spread the word.
Remember when let's name some names.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Go.
Roly Poly. Oshmic. What's his name? First name?
Oh, Dave Osmick?
Dave Oshmic. Yeah.
Oh.
Roly Poly.
Is that his new handle?
Yeah, built wide in the belt and real. I mean, he's
stick arms.
He's like Dr. Robotic. He's just a caricature. It's just all belly. Okay, little legs, all belly, weak wrists. It's embarrassing. Actually, some people's physical appearance is so embarrassing as to make me wonder why they leave the house. And I don't mean that to be overly, material or appearance based. But there is something to be said that you have no real care about the way that your health. I mean, let's just talk about from a health standpoint. You're not healthy. You're not fit. Remember, and I saw this video about the fitness requirements when Kennedy was.
Oh, those kids were scary, weren't they?
Oh, they were robots.
Right.
All of them.
That's my generation.
But Dave Oshmick's in that generation, so where was he then? He wasn't passing the fitness test.
You know what I've said to you?
That's what I'm saying.
Well, he might have been in 1964.
Okay, and then he lost it. Okay,
well, and this is also a failure of education.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference of teaching, well-being. This is really the core of it for me. So thanks for giving me a second.
But wait, before you go there, the reason I brought his name up is
let's give him a good pummeling.
Didn't we see him try and run off a guy for talking about Christ?
Yes, we did.
My good buddy Doc there from Minnetonka High School.
This was a man who was a Marine medic in Vietnam. And
did Oshmick serve in the military?
I don't know.
Okay,
that I don't know. But this man, Doc, who I spent time with him, he's the kind of person.
Love Doc, Christian brother. God bless him.
You're a brother. If you believe, you're a brother with him from just looking at each other.
Yeah,
fantastic. But this man actually was in Vietnam as a Marine medic. Point of the spear, what he saw and what he did, he doesn't even want to talk about. What his response has been is he's dedicated his life to spreading the word. And he's 80 years old and he's working in the public school system. Whatever he's doing there, it's not about the job. It's about him being around the kids and the teachers to try to maintain some kind of sacred honor and faith in the school system. The guys, and this, we went to an event.
Man's a saint.
You and I went to an event, and Doc was speaking, and he was starting to wax religious, and this Osmic said, "Get off the stage." I went to a meeting.
That's the Republican Party in Minnesota, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I went to a meeting with Republicans just last week.
And when I say that's the Republican Party, I don't mean that that's the makeup of the Republican Party. But this guy is high up. He's the guy sitting there doing the moderating at the convention at the State Central Committee.
State Central. He's the guy that tried to throw me out.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. What'd I do?
That was a funny story.
Mm-hmm.
This is a funny story. Can we have a little HEBROES humor?
Let's do it.
This is hilarious. So I had COVID that week, and I thought to myself, should I go to the State Central Committee? The Republican Party of Minnesota is run by delegates to the State Central Committee, and it's split about 55-45 between the traditional neocon Republican and this growing movement of American citizens that are America Firsters. A lot of these America Firsters have decided to hurl themselves at the neocons. They just throw themselves at the power. And it's tragic and entertaining simultaneously. And I'm well known to these people, and I wasn't feeling good. This is just a hilarious story. I'm sitting there, I'm slumped over, and there was a vote, and Osmic said one side won and not the other side. And there's a thing, you go division, which means let's have a head count. Let's count it. Let's not do it by sound. And he looked right at me because he knew who I was. He said, "Do I have to have you removed?" And I jumped up out of my chair, and I said, "No, I want you and everybody on this stage to resign." And he goes, "Sergeant at Arms, remove this man." So this galoot comes over to me, and I gave him that look. If you touch me, somebody's going to die. So he backed off, and they went for reinforcements. This is the funny part. So all of a sudden, there's 4 or 5 guys hanging around me. So I give 4 or 5 guys the look. If you touch me, you're all going to die. And they all ran away like rats. And I thought, wow, I still got it, because we do get frailer as we get older. And I was feeling afterwards, I find out that you were up in the balcony and you saw me about to get ejected physically. And to have my back, you ran down. So those guys saw you coming to protect me. And when they saw 270 pounds running at them, they scrambled like rats. They just ran away. And I thought I was a badass. There's a martial arts movie about that. With that, do you know that movie I'm talking about?
Where the big guy's behind him,
Behind the uncle.
Yeah.
It was exactly. It was life imitating art.
First off, I just want to say I was appalled at what I saw at that state central committee. That was one of the most disgusting displays of political theater and a sort of rigged proceeding by the establishment that I've ever witnessed personally in my life. I mean, I've never been up close on something so slanted. You know, it's just like, as a sportsman, it'd be like, it just get a boxer getting robbed, or a basketball team getting cheated. The fouls are 10-1. It's just disgusting. I mean, it's just, there's nothing square about it. And the whole thing about capitalism that we've lost, and I want to say this, is that the competition is supposed to be square. And we, without the sacred honor, we can't have square competition. Now, we lost that somewhere. We started to think, hey, as long as you get the money, then the way you got it doesn't matter. And there's something gravely wrong with that, evident in us becoming a military-based economy and sort of culture. But, the fact that Ajmic has the audacity, and this is what I really don't like. And I told you this yesterday, we were in the car. The lack of physical, the lack of respect found by physical consequences really bothers me. It really does. Because where I grew up, there's just there's certain respect, there's a certain caution you had to have when dealing with people. And when people didn't do that, people got hurt. Some people got killed. I mean, the smallest, and people may not understand this, or they may reject this, or they may talk about rule of law and crime and look at black communities and go, hey, that one black guy got into an argument with the other guy and he just shot him. And yeah, there's a sort of cowardice and lack of honor in that, but it's more in the technological advancement of how easy it is to kill somebody, which isn't a byproduct of black communities. That's a byproduct of global military industrial complex, right? That's trickled down to the local community.
The fruits of science.
The fruits of science. That's right. But the idea that, if you cross a line and there's no respect, that we may throw down, we may have to fist fight. It's just assumed by people like Ajmic that that's not a reality.
They were, I think it shocked that room when I stood up and got so.
But it's not just that room.
I'm just saying. Well, yeah,
it was the way. No,
but that's a microcosm of the whole thing.
No, the microcosm is the way he treated Doc.
Oh,
the fact that he thought that he could tell
bully him,
a Marine medic who served his stint that he could shout from a seated position to get him off the stage as though talking about God is a waste of time, and beneath beneath him personally. Where do these people get off?
Well, that's
where do these people get off with that type of arrogance?
But this is really the cleave line between that neocon group and the America Firster group.
But they don't believe in God.
They don't believe in God. I just was at a meeting this past weekend.
Nobody who believes in God would. I know people who don't believe in God that wouldn't disrespect. I know people who don't believe in. Look, and this is what just people do not understand. I led 15,000 people to the Federal Reserve, and the majority of them were what? Liberals. The majority of them were leftists, progressives. 18 to 19 to 25-year-old, pink, green, purple-haired, woke college kids. even they had the decency not to disrespect a man when he got up and talked about God. And these people are staunch atheists. In fact, you may even find some of them dabbling in witchcraft and occultism and satanic temple. But when we had people stand up and pray or speak about God and talk from a more religious standpoint, none of them scoffed. None of them scoffed from the crowd. And I'm not saying that to defend the leftists. I'm doing it to illustrate that if we're going to measure this thing by comparison, good or bad by comparison, the most anti-religious people that I've come across are right here in the Republican Party, and they're at the fucking top of it.
Well, I guess I'd have to say that there's a lot of resistance to. See, this is, I guess, I'm thinking about this as you're talking about it. If you're standing on a neocon military platform, and the whole reason that you're running your deal is empire, you really don't have any real faith, right?
Right.
And so then they're going to reject anyone coming forward and interjecting a faith conversation, because that also means with faith comes self-governance. So, there's maybe some unconscious reactions. This guy was chosen specifically to be at these events to bully people. That's the part that I most object as a participant in an organization. An organization, if it's going to thrive and grow, needs to listen to its members. And he was there to throttle. There was this one scene, I don't know if you saw it, this professor was there. He identified as a professor from one of the local universities. And he says, I feel like I'm standing in a room in 1930s Germany. And Osmic goes, remove this man. It was everybody. It was actually a parody. The room actually, people started laughing.
And of course, the rule was what? I mean, they started the whole thing. You could tell the game was rigged and what type of thing it was going to be. You can't film. I mean, you're talking about the conservative movement and people who talk about the Constitution, people who listen to Mark Levin, constitutional conservatives. Not to bring his name back up, but how does Mark Levin feel about a Republican Party proceeding or event taking place, a formal Republican Party proceeding taking place that doesn't acknowledge the freedom of speech laws or the freedom to record? I mean, what are we? Who are we?
Who are we? We're a secret society.
There you go.
We're
JFK said we're fundamentally opposed to secret societies.
We're a secret society with a public-facing website. That's what the Republican Party is, at least here in Minnesota. I can't speak about Texas, sir.
You can't film the State Central Committee? Why? Because you don't want people to see how fucking corrupt it is? What would be the argument as to why not film? Let it be filmed. Let it be filmed. Let the people see. Let the people see how politics actually work.
Well, actually,
if I was in charge of the Republican Party, if I was the chair, the first order of business would be let these proceedings be filmed. Let them be live streamed.
Let them be live streamed to encourage American citizens to involve themselves in a process.
So we can be held accountable for the things we do by we the people. This ain't a special club. You can't.
No. It is a completely.
But that's the point. You can't claim to be a party of the constitutional we the people and be a special club at the same time.
And what's happening all over the country, this I know because I talk to people nationally, as the movement grows and these people are threatened, they're what they call this in China the iron rice bowl. Never can be taken away from you because you're in the party. They're actually changing the rules and becoming more draconian. But we are seeing some signs of change. Mitch McConnell resigned.
Yeah.
Mitt Romney resigned. Yeah. These people know, the top ones, the ones that are smart, they know their time's up. They're going to go retire, take their ill-gotten gains and count their money, right?
Yeah.
Down here in the belly of the beast, these people haven't figured it out yet. They're going to have to be removed. They're not going to give it up. And they're not going to allow. Now, we got this Tom Emmer here. He's been a project of mine since he got involved with this debt ceiling scam. He's come out, endorsed President Trump.
Of course.
He's all of a sudden, he's America first.
Are they dumb enough to believe, and they're actually dumb enough to believe that in ST6? I mean, in CD6.
Those people, well, you're the guy that came up with people take their politics with their French fries. They're exploiting the American citizens' relative disengagement from the real issues and the real movement of the issues. I'm pissed at him. I'm going to go back at him hard because what he's doing is he's impersonating someone now.
Yes.
He fears the movement of
There's
the American.
nothing more dishonest than that.
It is. It really should just be swept away.
There's nothing more manipulative and dishonest than impersonating an ideology. I mean, you talk about Trojan horse, and here's the scary part. These people like Tom Emmer.
They're cultically involved.
They'll vote for Tom Emmer. They'll support Tom Emmer. I see them come with their Emmer stickers. And it's always a middle-aged white woman. I mean, let's just be honest. And it's not just them, but we got the same middle-aged white woman issue in the conservative movement that we do in the liberal movement. In fact, Kathy Ostrom is a great example, who's really, by all metrics, a fucking liberal. Because if you justify abortion because you feel that black men leave their families, you're a fucking Satanist. And she wouldn't even speak to me. And that's very good, because I would have just told her, get the fuck out of my face. I'm that guy. Same thing I'm gonna tell Oshmick.
Wait.
When I run into him, but he wouldn't speak to me either.
Wait.
Fuck you, buddy. Go fuck yourself.
Wait.
Move
Slow
to
down.
China.
Please, can we have a little context here?
Okay.
Little context, because there's people tuning in for the first time.
Mm.
They don't have the history on this thing. This is certain things when you have a movement, when you have a culture, political culture, certain events become remembered because of their potency. And Royce and I were at one of these meetings, these said meetings where we get together with people to try to do this peer-to-peer engagement. And I invite everybody because I always ask them, did you vote for George Bush? I pop my own hand up. And I've had a lot of evolution since 2000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was that kid under my desk, and I was that kid in that line to get that measles shot with the people in the white coats. Okay? So
monkeypox.
Whatever it was, I'm still cooking. But, I've gone through, and let me tell you, I've gone through a lot of disease episodes in my life and suffered. I don't blame, but, not everything that we're given is good for us. And not everything we're taught is good for us. There's a lot of propaganda. Anyhow, we went to this meeting, and I had invited new people from the Republican Party because we're trying to find the people in the party that want to work with us.
Mm-hmm.
And this woman walks in with her cohort, another, as President Trump would say, another beaut. Anyhow, we're sitting there, and they're not sitting there for more than, 4 or 5 minutes. And I said something about God. Because I'm a believer. So I talk about God. We talk about God, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this Kathy Ostrom looked at me and she goes, is that a litmus test? And I said, I don't believe in litmus tests. We're all here American citizens. And non sequitur, we weren't even talking about it. She pointed her bony finger right at Royce and said, I believe in abortion because you people abandon your children. And it was a table of mostly men, and the whole table moved back because it was like, whoa, there's a demon afoot. We didn't even know how to. It was so unexpected.
What did I tell her?
What did you tell her?
Remember, I told her, I said, where do you get your products in your house from? And she said, wherever it was, home, whatever it was. I said, it's made in China, right? Oh yeah, it's made in China. Oh, so ipso facto, you're kind of, you're kind of I forgot what I said. Something like, oh, so you believe in China. I mean, you believe in abortion,
writ large.
Writ large.
Right.
And she was like, well, I never thought about it that way. It's like, it's just the point that what it was so taken aback by is this is one of the first times I was even at a Republican little gathering. I had never even been to a little group session like that, really, or only a few. And I thought these people were the ones out there, defending pro-life position. So I just didn't, it didn't occur to me that
it was shocking, wasn't it?
That not only the position, but the justification. I mean, it wasn't a moderate position. It wasn't like, hey, listen, Yeah.
No, the part that was shocking, it was
It was like,
no, the part that was shocking is that she made it personal. She pointed her finger right at you people.
yeah.
When I hear that you people thing, with my background in training and cultural issues, when I use the word you people,
The idea fucking A.
we're getting ready to get down when we start hearing that you
Yeah,
people thing.
you go to a black neighborhood and a black barbershop and you pull the you people out. But a lot of, you know, this is what I was going back to, but it's Kathy Ostrom too. But it's again, it's Oshmic. It's just, they have no sense of consequences. And then if there were consequences, they would do the call the cops and sue thing. I mean, that's their MO. And it's just such a little Weasley and it's what they're doing to Trump. They're doing to Trump in a more abstract way. They're really saying, you're beating us, and smacking us around intellectually. You're smacking us around culturally. You're smacking us around politically. So what we're going to do is just call the cops and sue you. That's what they're doing. And then the people who are in our movement are using that to justify not supporting them. I said about Nikki Haley the other day. Imagine you're trying to build a political platform and campaign on the idea that our enemies, by your standards, our enemies, the Democrats, the liberals, the Joe Bidens of the world, our enemies are corrupting the system and targeting Donald Trump. And so we should not support him. We should give up. We should throw in the towel because our enemies have rigged the system. That there is not a better encapsulation of a beta male cuck feminist sort of outlook and approach to tyranny. Oh, wait. They've pegged this guy. They've targeted him. We just should let them take him. Let them. I mean, and I'll be the person because they're not coming for me. What yet? And what makes Nikki Haley so confident that they wouldn't come for her the same way if she actually had the juice to be where Donald Trump is? I'll tell you what. She knows that she's involved in the scam because the people that back her with the money and the variation of American politics that she's involved with is the whole scam. She's in the fourth rail. So she's very confident that they won't attack her the same way they do Donald Trump.
I told you I went to that event.
MSNBC showing you that.
I went to that event. Was Nikki Haley and Leon Panetta, former director of the CIA, chief of staff for Bill Clinton,
Mm-hmm.
and they were Mutt and Jeff in it, but they were the same person. I mean, they were set up as if it was point counterpoint, but what they were there to say was, we have to go to war with Russia. That was the takeaway. And that's the takeaway from all these people. Everybody needs to know that if we don't get clear about what the issues of this election really are, like if we get caught up in Donald Trump or we get caught up in this scam or that scam, no, we're voting for peace or war. Pick it, make a decision, pick a side, live with your decision. If you want to go to war, because we're getting ready to go to war. I mean, it's no longer even in the
Talk about it. Proceed.
Well, this is what happens when a group thinks they're in control. This really comes from people that have never really been in a fight. Because, when you get in a fight, like in a room with a lot of people, it starts out with two guys, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But when other people start joining in, it gets a little bit improv. And that's what's happening now in Europe because the Ukraine thing and the reaction of the Russians to the Ukraine thing is now spreading on all the border states, the Poles, the Romanians, the Estonians, Latvians, the Finns, all these people are now, the Swedes, they're all getting concerned that the Russians are expansionists. Now they all got their own self-interest going.
Mm-hmm.
And they know that there's this America First thing going on over here. Maybe America doesn't have their back. Maybe they're on their own. And when weak people find themselves on their own, they do kind of strange things. So we're getting in kind of a strange moment over in Europe. And that's why there's so much pressure on Mike Johnson and the House Republicans to pass this 90. They're actually going to say if we pass this 90 billion, it's going to bring about peace. Wait for it. It's coming. You want to have peace? We need the 90 billion to buy weapons to kill Russians. Hey, But the Russians have changed their nuclear doctrine just this week. They've lowered the threshold for using nukes. What they're advertising, because it's not a secret, is here's our red lines. Now, you saw when you crossed this red line in Ukraine, you dumb sons of bitches. Do you see what we did? We warned you for 10 years. If you keep moving towards our borders, we're going. What's that great rap song? Get off my back or I will attack, and you won't like that?
I don't know it.
Let's see. So far back, you don't know it. Because rap, you probably weren't born when that shit was out there.
91. Rap was just.
I'm going to pull that out and I'm going to send it to you.
Okay.
Okay. I used to work out to it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what they said. Get off my back or I will attack, and you won't like that. And that's exactly what happened. I don't care. You want to say the Russians caused this? Fine. You want to say the Russians didn't cause it? Fine. The fact is we don't like the way it is. That's another thing that's pissing me off. All these issues get supported from both sides so heavily that unless you're willing to really do the research for yourself and find it for yourself, you just give up because there's two opposing arguments that just get ground together and you get mush and you get that disengagement you were talking about earlier tonight. But the Russians have lowered their nuclear doctrine, the threshold for using nuclear weapons, because they're telling the West, if you sink 3 capital ships, we're using nukes. If you sink 30% of our nuclear submarines, we're using nukes. If one boot goes on our soil, we're using nukes. In the meantime, they're building a Maginot Line across Northern Europe, trying to separate the West from the Russians. And we've got we just had a thing that happened this week with the saddle rattling, where the European Union was saying, well, we're going to put combat troops into Ukraine. Russians said, okay, try it.
Internment camps for Russians in European countries is not a far stretch of the imagination right now.
The whole thing. And then there's, the Russians also, none of these people are blameless. I mean, this is about ethnic cleansing now. But I go back to what started all this shit. Okay, these groups were separated for a reason, like the Germans. I'm not here to be pro-Nazi. Come on, I'm not.
But let's just wait.
But you separate these groups, the ethnic groups get separated to weaken these polities.
Who cares? Listen, what I'm saying is this. Who gives a fuck? The Finns, the Swedes, they should fight their own war. Good. They're getting finicky. They should. They're not getting finicky because there's this America First movement. They're finicky because inevitably America can't protect everybody.
Well, they know it.
They know it.
They know it.
Yeah, but it's not about this America First movement is accelerating our vulnerability in the region.
I don't know if this is true, but I heard that the entire NATO European alliance can muster 2.5 divisions of combat troops. I don't know if that's true. I didn't do the research, but I heard this several times, which means they're grotesquely underprepared to deal with what's going on. And if you look at military spending,
You mean NATO?
NATO, actually in Europe, 2.5 divisions. They're basically defenseless. And now they're scrambling. They don't have the military infrastructure. They don't have the spending.
Yeah, it's America. There is no NATO.
That's correct.
So when they say, these NATO bases, they're American bases. This is America. America's underwriting the whole thing. The American citizens are underwriting.
And then
the
you
whole
get
thing.
these military people, that say, I know what NATO was. When I was in Afghanistan, the NATO troops were dying and fighting with them. Every one of these countries has got 1,000 crazies. Proceed. Right?
Right.
Really, NATO had nothing to do with what happened in Afghanistan. It had nothing to do with what happened in Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what it is an extension of U.S. foreign policy. That's what it is. Where's the peace talks? Where's the peace talks? I said this, I'll say it again. I don't ever remember in my lifetime, even the Israelis and Hamas are having talks.
They're having peace talks.
They're having talks.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're peace, but at least they're sitting down and spitting at each other.
Joe Biden just said that they're going to have a ceasefire by the weekend.
He did?
Yeah. He said they're very close. As he was eating an ice cream cone, he was asked about it, and he said, my national security advisors tell me we're close.
Well, let me tell you what the Israelis
I don't think they're close at all.
Here's what the Israelis said. They have a defense minister. I love this guy's name. It's Benny Gantz. It sounds very mafia, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Benny Three Fingers Gantz.
Mm-hmm.
He's their defense minister. He said that if all the hostages were not returned by the 10th of March, which is the first day of Ramadan, they're going to attack a population center in southern Gaza where 1.5 million Palestinians are holed up. They got them. And the Egyptians, listen to this one. The Egyptians, this is hilarious. The Egyptians are building a wall. I'm serious. They're building a wall to keep the Palestinians from escaping into Egypt.
Yeah.
These people are trapped. They're trapped. And so if they don't give these hostages up, they're going in and there's 1.5 million people trapped. Don't build a wall. It doesn't work. It's working great for the Egyptians. So, but those people are talking. Nobody is talking to the Russians. There's no peace talks. Just sit down and talk to the people. Cut a deal. Make a peace. And we can. And there's a thing that happened in after the Germans invaded Poland in 1939. There was a period was called the Phony War. The Phony War. The Phony War went on for about 8 months, and all the citizens in all of those European countries went around like we're doing here. We're going about our business, going to the health clubs, going out to go to the restaurants. They're full. People spending money, running their credit cards up. People going to work. Streets are filled with cars. Life is good.
Mm-hmm.
Life is good. In fact, Morning Joe, look at your 401k. If you want to know how good life is good, right? It's the phony war. What's really happening is the world is positioning assets to get ready to throw down big time. And we're at the last moment where American citizens can unite for their children, for their country, for their people to stay out of a European war. Why are we getting involved in European wars? We're divorced from these people. We are like the prototypical cock.
They're our bitch. They're our bitch. And we're
who's
playing.
Who's the bitch?
Well, I mean, depends on how you look at it.
That's what I'm saying. This reminds me of the guy that got divorced, and he goes back to his ex-wife.
Cuck.
And exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All we are is the bouncer.
Yeah, cuck. But I mean, they're for sure. What are we doing? What are we doing defending all the Europe? How is it that America is basically supplemented Europe's fight, economy, the entire thing? There's security for sure, but the security protects the economy. How is it that we've done that and they have no military readiness? We have America.
Donald Trump.
We got to send America. We got to send Green Berets to go stand up NATO divisions. Are you kidding me?
Donald Trump was widely pilloried for demanding that these countries frog up. Remember that?
Yeah.
People are going, you can't talk like that. He said, yeah. He just recently said, hey, if you don't pay up, go ahead, Putin.
Oh yeah,
That's very gangster.
No, I saw something on social media come across, and must have been a liberal or progressive, or maybe Rhino, neocon. You don't know, but
same people.
They were saying Donald Trump just said he doesn't care what the Russians do. Russians can do anything they want. And I just looked at it and I go, damn right. They can do what.
Let's go back to the idea of borders. You're
to
the idea of borders.
It's not a moral, ethical statement.
You're back to the idea of borders.
You can say something's wrong, but still not be saying that you want to intervene in it. It's not your business. And we got a big problem with our whole foreign policy.
Again, borders.
Foreign policy is based on not minding our own fucking business.
Not having borders.
Everybody else's business is our business.
If you're a globalist, you have no spiritual borders.
I don't care what the Russians do. Even Israel. I said about Israel. It's the same thing. No, that's the taboo of taboos in the conservative movement. That is the ultimate taboo.
Right. It's all hold off.
I told you the linchpin of the neoliberal order was Israel. Yeah. And the same thing goes for Israel though. I mean, if we have this deep spiritual affection, okay, the Glenn Becks of the world, they have this deep Christian spiritual affection with the state of Israel and then the fate of the Jew because of the Bible. Okay, fine.
Come on.
I tend to disbelieve you because you don't really seem that Christian. Not in my view, anyway. It's just, again, don't use profanity, but we'll go kill people as a business. Not Christian. But hey, fine. You get to be whatever kind of Christian you want. That's kind of the
Free will.
the freedom of the whole deal. But okay, fine. We have a special affection for these individual countries out there. Israel's one of them. They got to pay. That's fine. You know, we can have a special affection for them. We can love them. We can care for them. We can protect them. But they got to pay. And they don't pay.
You know how they
Even
pay?
Israel doesn't
You know
pay.
how they pay?
With intelligence, with access.
Yeah, but also
With access to the
the
region.
British put the Jews there to scramble that egg. They'd already scrambled the Sunnis and the Shias. This is a very strategic area. You know, it's the Suez Canal
Mm-hmm.
to the mouth of the Red Sea, and then to the Malacca Strait.
Right. No,
If
it's
you
the
go look,
access.
It's
I
the
get it.
access.
No, but
it's
that's
the British. It's
no,
the British
no,
access.
No. You got to pay. Money. No. There ain't no access, change, barter. This ain't a fucking barter system. Cash, money. You got to pay. Do they pay?
No,
No.
we support them.
We pay them.
14 billions on the table
Egypt.
right now.
No, and not just them. It doesn't stop with them.
Oh, Egypt's definitely on
So
the
the
payroll.
whole Mark Levin pitch after October 7th was if we don't help Israel, they're going to use nukes too. We're basically getting bullied. We're giving an ultimatum.
And the word around the campfire is that Iran now has 6 nukes ready
We
to
are
go.
being given an ultimatum that if we don't play mediator and police, then these people are going to kill each other, right?
Right.
Well,
Okay.
first of all, how do we know that they're not all in on it together to just take money from us? How do we know they're not all posing at this point and they're all whacking up the money?
I like that.
Well, who's to say?
You're the guy that said that.
They're getting money.
We're
Getting threatened. I thought we don't negotiate. Hold on, wait a second. I thought we don't negotiate with terrorists. These people are geopolitical, military, nuclear, advanced weaponry terrorists. They're saying if you don't help us, if you don't broker a peace, if you don't mediate
You don't pay.
the region, if you don't help secure the region, then we'll kill each other. Bitch, kill each other. Kill. Go ahead. Let's see how about it you really are. And it's everybody. And the same goes for the Qataris. I see we're on every side of the trade because we give money to the Qataris. We give money to Iran. We just gave money to Iran. We give money to Egypt. All of them should pay us too. Hey, Iran, guess what? Mutually assured destruction. You guys
promise not
other?
to bomb you. Pay up, sucker.
And guess what? And here's the line. The line is out there somewhere in the Atlantic. You cross this fucking line, we're going to come deal with all of you. So you do whatever. If the nuclear dust or the fallout or whatever it is that you're going to do, see, but then it starts to become a climate racket, right? This is where nuclear war becomes a climate racket. It's just, the nuclear weapons are so destructive that it's going to kick a cloud of dust up in the sky and the sun will be blotted out and we won't be able to grow any crops. But we can petri dish. We can grow broccoli from a petri dish, and you can eat that. And we can clone chickens, but we need the sun to but we can terraform Mars. I mean, the lies are really getting out there now. I mean, one's the truth and one's obviously not. I'm not scared of nuclear. Don't tell me any more stories. What's the place there in Russia? That's
Chernobyl.
Don't give me the Chernobyl stories. I'm not saying it's not true, but what I'm saying is if they start to there's a radius for nuclear dust and nuclear fallout, right? Or else Chernobyl would have spread to
everywhere,
right? Obviously, it doesn't work like that. I mean, these are the facts. Again, this is Boomer cons. You guys got under your desk for nuclear tests. Dumb.
Are you saying we got brainwashed?
It's dumb. It's just dumb on a factual basis. What the fuck are you doing under your desk? What are you doing?
Being terrorized.
Same people terrorizing you today. My point is this. You guys want to kill yourselves then. If that's what you want to do. If you're so hell-bent on dying, don't think you're going to extort us on the way.
What you're saying is if you pull the plug on the
then you get to see who really
wants to get down. And what did we find out with Iran recently?
They didn't want to get down.
They had a chance.
They didn't want to get down.
They've been trying to reel their proxies in. But then again, when you get people on your payroll,
Mm-hmm.
like the Houthis, they might say, "Oh,
They'll start extorting you.
because you're not who you're not who."
You said you
I
were.
had to say this because you had this funny thing we were talking
About the
right.
Ayatollah?
The Ayatollah. That's just hilarious.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Iranians. Royce goes, I just don't think it's what it's advertised as. I just see that guy going home at night, taking his turban off, flipping on Johnny Carson reruns.
And eating Ben and Jerry's.
Hilarious. But the Houthis,
With a white woman.
but the Houthis, the
Uh-huh.
Houthis were sold a bill of goods.
Mhm.
Hamas was sold a bill of goods. If the Iranians say, hey, you know what? Not today. That doesn't mean those guys that are on the front lines might just say, we're going without you.
Right.
Right?
Right. Like Hamas said they did.
Then that's how.
That's what Hamas claimed they did. They said that we were funded by the Iranians to do this. And then the Iranians said, no, we didn't. But Hamas was, well, we're going anyway.
Right. And that's when things. That's what I was saying
Fog of
about
war.
when a fight starts and it's two people. Okay, when the whole bar gets involved in it, it's out of control, and we're just
World War.
a hair away from everybody pursuing their own
But
self-interest.
we have the ability to pull out of the whole thing. I mean, we have the opportunity as America to just leave the bar and let these motherfuckers.
Wouldn't that be smart?
We're out.
We just have to elect different people.
We're out of here. We not. But this bar fight is dumb. You people are dumb. We're out. You guys fight. We're going home. Now, when I go home, if one of you motherfuckers follow me back to my walk up, I can't tell you. I'm gonna have to get. Then I'm gonna have to get down. And that's what America should do. Here the line out here in the ocean. Put the nuclear submarines right there in the Pacific and the Atlantic. If you want to keep them there in the South China Sea because you think China's the big threat and you want to stop them before they ever progress across the Pacific, if that's what our claim is, because you got hypersonic missiles and space nukes and all kinds of shit they're saying now, direct energy weapons. Who knows what's possible? But if something was really possible and people were as sinister as they say, they would have went already. Because if they have that capacity, I don't think they wouldn't use it. And maybe they do. And maybe that's why our elites at the highest level bend the knee to China so willingly, obviously, on the world stage. Maybe they're already bitching us. We don't know. I mean, that level of military is classified, right? It's kept secret.
The
But what I'm saying,
cosmonauts and the astronauts are still up there flying around
For
together.
sure.
Unbelievable.
nuclear submarines, Pacific, Atlantic. You cross this line, we're coming to deal with all of you. And now that would be a fair and reasonable military strategy.
That'd be great. That would be the proper application of a U.S. Defense Force defending the well-being of American citizens.
Right.
I love that idea.
Right.
We're not anti-military. We're anti-use of the military in pursuit of empire.
Oh, absolutely. We can't do it. I mean, it's so obvious we can't do it. And why? Why would we want to defend everywhere at all times anyway? It's not tenable. It's not tenable, especially when you got a 1.8 birth rate per couple. I mean, if you're talking about getting ready to go to war and getting down.
We have all these new people that can go into the military.
Oh, fuck. Illegal immigrants ain't going into no military.
Oh, they most certainly will be.
Shit.
That'll be a path to citizenship. Army recruitment, U.S. military recruitment is down 5% this year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Rejection of military-industrial complex.
Well, hey, if you got kids and you're listening, ask yourself this question. Are you willing to see them get drafted? That's, do you want to? Because the draft's coming back. In fact, the left on racial issues think it's very important that the draft comes back for equity.
Oh, give me a fucking break.
No, I'm going to.
This has been another episode of Please Call Me Crazy. Brought to you by Free People Radio and powered by our favorite sponsor, TireGet.com. That's TireGet.com. You have to buy tires from somebody, you might as well buy them from us and help fund the movement. I can't tolerate the left talking about a draft, a military draft for racial equity. That's where I draw the hard fucking line.
We're stopping.
We got it. This is it. We might as well just go and talk about ETs now. This is so outrageous. Thanks for being here again, man. We hope you all enjoyed another episode of HEBROES. I think in let's put a date in March, and we'll just upload the HEBROES channel, start the HEBROES channel. And you guys can follow the HEBROES podcast as well. That way it'd be a little bit harder for YouTube to take us down all at once, censor us, anybody else, and just got a mountain of content out there. Pardon shots. Make sure that you subscribe to the Professor Penn podcast if you haven't already. The Professor Penn podcast is on YouTube, but the Great Professor Penn is also on social media now. And
Rumble,
yeah.
X, Getter. Please find me. We'll talk to you.
Yeah, there's something else I was going to say. Oh, John Fredericks Radio Network, Monday through Friday. I'm on the radio at 9 p.m. Eastern. Real America's Voice tomorrow morning. How did I forget? Tired. It was a long night. Real America's Voice tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. The Royce White Show. Also, our radio shows are almost complete to put up for you to listen to and replay back on the Royce White USA YouTube channel. So that'll be up and running for you momentarily. You'll be able to listen back to the radio shows. We'll see if they let me play the music. If not, we'll have to put them all on Rumble. Hopefully Rumble will let me play the music on the shows, and that'll be a good way to get the full experience of the radio show if you don't hear it live. RoyceWhite.us for the Senate campaign website. And I just want to say this to you all again. If you vote for money in this country, if you vote for the people with the most signs, the most literature, the most TV ads, or whatever the case may be, if you vote for the people who have money, I mean, you're really asking to be represented by sellouts. That's just a fundamental fact. You want to be represented by people who have sold out, because there is no righteous money out there. If there is, feel free to drop it in the comments. But I refuse to go to the Koch brothers and ask them for a fucking check, because I know who they are. And I know who a lot of these 501c3 evangelicals, mega church donors are. And I'm just not doing it. The referendum's on you. You know what the fucking issues are. If you want to believe some propaganda pitch that's been carefully crafted and well funded, then just go ahead and vote for Nikki Haley. Let's not beat around the bush. And I'm fine with that. I'm 32. You guys want to go to war? Fine. Let's go to war. I think I could probably survive. If I'm doing the Darwin thing, I think my chances of survival are pretty good. I'm just going to say. But hey, run it up. Roll the dice, guys. Your choice. We all get to decide how the country burns now. The Great Professor Penn, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being here, man. Parting shots for you.
It's just always nice to have this dialogue. We are building a movement. We're really about spreading the search for truth. We're asking to be involved. We want to be entertaining, but we really would like every listener and viewer to pick up their cross and bear it and try to spread the word of self-governance through our society. Because if we don't, we will be governed, and we'll be governed by evil people. It's the American citizens that have the goodness, that have the grace, that have the courage to take our country in a direction that's good for the people.
Amen to that. Amen to that. We appreciate your viewership and listenership today and in the future. The fight continues. Don't die a jerk off. And as always, Godspeed.